What's going on, guys? Josh over here with Stovetop 19, working on another video for you guys today. This video is going to be about the Gsx-r 1100, or the $600 drag bike that my dad and I purchased. Basically, this video is going to be the initial workings, trying to get the bike up and running, going through the carburetors, things like that. More videos to come on this bike, so make sure you guys are subscribed. Let's get this going. Alright guys, we got the bike in here, we got it up on the lift, getting ready to start tearing into it a little bit here. First things first, I'm going to go ahead and pull the seat, pull the tank. I know I got to clean the tank out. There's a little bit of surface rust going on the inside. I've got a couple of techniques of getting that out. Anyway, we're going to get all that taken off. We're going to go ahead and hook up a fuel bottle straight up to the carburetor, see if it even starts. You know, if the carburetors have been dry all these years, there's a chance that they could be clean. I'm guessing not, but it's worth a shot. If they don't fire off of that, we're going to go ahead and pull them off and go through them and rebuild them. So let's get started with that. Alright, come here. I'm going to show you guys something. Something I always like to check when I'm first working on a carburetor or a carbureted bike is to make sure that the throttle closes all the way. Because if you do manage to get this thing started up with no load on the engine, meaning it's in neutral, that throttle's or if the throttle's hung up at all, it's going to rev to the sky. So look at this. There's the hose clamp that holds the carburetors onto the intake boots, and it looks like that hose clamp is in the way, not allowing that to close. So right now we're at half throttle, and this looks like it's a pull style only carburetor, so I can't actually make that shut. So we're relying solely on the spring, which cannot overpower the hose clamp. So it's a good thing that I spotted that before I did something stupid. So let's get that fixed, then we'll hook up the fuel. Throttle's closing. Okay, we got oil pressure. Well, it does start. You need to go get a T-fitting, like hook fuel bottle up to both inlets at the same time. We'll try it again. Alright, well, instead of trying to mess around just seeing what the carbs are at, I'm going to go ahead and pull them off and inspect them. See how everything looks. Looks like we're leaking fuel already, so there's my answer. Well, with the carburetors off, one thing I always like to check, especially if it's a newer bike or it's not mine, and I want to make sure that the CV diaphragms on the inside are good. If you blow in this air port on the top, it'll create a vacuum. It'll make the slide go up and down. That just confirms that these slides are moving freely and that there's no holes in the diaphragm. So as you can see in the last one anyway, it opens and closes. That's what it should be doing. Next, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to disassemble these whole carbs. Disassemble everything on them, check them, see what jet sizes I have compared to what they should be. See if I have a jet kit, which I'm assuming I do. And then we're going to go through all the passages and clean it all out. And looks like my mixture screw caps have already been drilled out, which is awesome. One less thing that I need to do. You guys can see I've got a little cookie tray, whatever you want to call it. That's my favorite thing to disassemble carbs in. That way if you drop something that lands in here, it doesn't roll off your table, roll underneath the junk blade you have sitting on your workbench. When you pull these caps off, be aware that you do have a spring in there. This is the diaphragm I was talking about. Testing to make sure there are no holes in it. Looks like we're good to go there. Kind of look at the needle here. See if there's any horrible indents, which it doesn't look like it's fairly smooth, so that's a good needle. Well, right there's a potential problem. You can see I've got O-ring, O-ring, and then no O-rings. Should have O-rings in each of those to keep those sealed up. So I'll have to find some O-rings I can stick in there. I believe I have some. Alright, let's pull the bowls off and see how the bottom side of these look. Bowls look like they've been attempted to be clean. I see some scrape marks in there. Those gaskets are hard. I'm going to be putting them back together without the gaskets because I don't have a rebuild kit. I'll put some grease, see if I can get those to seal up, but more than likely those will leak. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this whole thing is going to be a mess. But for today, we can pull them apart, clean them, and just see if we can't get the bike running. Yeah, because all the rubber components are shot, and they're all rock solid. This O-ring here, it seats over the choke there. That should fit in fairly tight, and it's not, so that's going to leak. The fuel inlet, which is basically the needle and seat, which is built into the plastic on this float design. It's the same thing. It should be kind of a press, not a hard press fit, but a finger press fit in there. So you know the rubber's got a good seal, and it's not sealing at all. Means I need to get these parts on order as soon as possible, because today is Saturday. At least at the time of pulling these carbs apart, it's Saturday, and I have a race in 5 days. 6 days. Next Friday. Means I'll be putting these on order in a few minutes. Next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to count how many turns the mixture screws are from the bottom. So I'll take each screw, I'll tighten them down till they lightly bottom out, and that's how many turns these will all be set at. That way I kind of have a starting point when I get them back together. It's half, 1, 1.5, 2, about 2 turns, half, 1, 1.5, half, 1, 1.5, half, 1, 1.5, about 1.5. I'll probably set them all at 2 to begin with. Get them a little bit on the loose side. Excuse me, not on the loose side, but a little bit on the richer side on the mixture screw. That just makes it a little bit easier to start. This bike has had the choke cable and choke lever removed. So if I can get a little bit richer to start, that'll make cold starts a little bit easier for me. Alright, again, this is where your little cookie sheet comes in handy. There's 2 O-rings right there. Alright, this part is where a lot of people lose things. So I should have 4 of these mixture screws. You should have 4 of these springs. And the part that everyone seems to miss is that you'll have 4 small washers, those guys, and 4 O-rings down inside of here. I'll show you how I get those out. Alright, my trick for getting these little O-rings out is to go get yourself a piece of wire. Ideally, a paper clip works best. Take a pair of needle nose. You're going to make a small hook. Just like that. The only catch is this hook is going to be small enough to fit inside the O-ring and the washer. So usually I'll make a little hook and I'll come back and snip off part of this. Just about like that. See if we can't go down there and fish these out. So there is an O-ring and a washer. The O-ring did not come out, but the washer came out of this one. O-ring and washer. There's a washer, which means some O-ring in there somewhere. Got it. There's that. Next thing I'll take out is going to be the jets. I'll start with the pilot jets, or the idle jets, which are the small ones here inside of these tubes. I also want to make sure you have a good small flathead screwdriver. Craftsman just happens to have a good sized one that fits down inside most of these tubes. You want to put a lot of down pressure on these as you're turning it, because if they're stuck, that brass strips are pretty much done unless you want to start trying to drill out and easy out the jets, which is kind of a nightmare. So I'll fish around, wait till it's in the groove, push down, and turn. Typically they will break right loose for you. These carburetors seem to be in fairly decent shape, so I'm not expecting to have too many issues here. Get these jets out, see how they look. Make sure they're all clean and clear. And even if they look clear, you need to spray some carb cleaner and air through them to verify that they're clear. Some of them can build up a little layer of varnish, which will allow light to come through, but it's still blocked. And then I always run very small drill bits through them to make sure that they're reamed out to their proper size. Not that you do reaming, but any kind of buildup in there restricts fuel flow, which makes it run leaner. There's all 4. Right off the bat, I can tell you those are all plugged, so we will have to clean those out. And then for the main jets, need a different screwdriver. Alright, so these say they are 160, so I'll have to check that to stock spec and see what size those are. I always try to look at all the numbers as I'm pulling them out. Sometimes inline carburetors, especially air-cooled bikes, or some V-twins even, will run a different size jet depending on if it's the front or rear cylinder on a V-twin or inside and outside carbs on a 4-cylinder. So that's a 160. And that's another 160. Looks like all 4 of them are 160s. Cross-reference that here in a while. And then the last thing that I do, or that really you need to do on a carb clean, is get these emulsion tubes out if they do come out. Each of these should. A safe way to do it without damaging the threads. Just to put your jet in, thread it in a couple of turns, and very carefully tap on it. The screwdriver obviously doesn't have a whole lot of weight to it, which makes it a good tool for tapping on it with. And once it starts moving, you can reach in, push down. Again, be careful, these are brass, you don't want to damage the threads, you won't be able to get it back together. It's stuck pretty good. Now let me work on here for a second. I'm going in, I'm not going in the center on the threads, I'm kind of going in at an angle, getting on the edge. That way I can tap without damaging anything. The emulsion tube will drop down. In this case, it's actually a whole piece. You can see it's coming out there. And this whole thing will slide out the top on these carburetors. There's another O-ring. Looks like that one's actually a little bit pliable. Go and get the rest of these out quick. Alright, that's all four. Your carb bodies are all stripped down, at least as far as I'm going to go on this one. You can separate these carb bodies, which I don't recommend doing unless absolutely necessary, as it makes life much more difficult. This should be far enough for my purposes on this bike. So next, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this carb cleaner. The Gummount brand seems to be a pretty good or pretty strong formula. I kind of know because I've gotten multiple brands kind of sprayed into my eyes, which you should always have safety glasses on. So do as I say, not as I do. But of all the carb cleaner brands, this one seems to burn the worst, so I call that one the strongest one. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to blow carb cleaner through every hole, through all the passages. So you got your main, your idle circuit, you got your choke circuit here. I'm going to blow through the inlet, fuel inlet passages, and then through any kind of air inlets as well, which these two are air inlets. I'm going to confirm that all those are nice, free, and clear. Like I said, run the carb cleaner through it first, and then I'm going to chase it with the air hose. Do that on all passages that I can find, even these guys up here. And once I confirm that all those are clear, I'll do the same thing with the jets and the emulsion tubes. You want to make sure all these small holes are clear. Everything on the outside is nice and clean. Inside's nice and clean. And then again on the smaller jets, the idle jets, you want to make absolutely sure that the holes are as wide as they can possibly be on the inside, with no varnish, any kind of lining or anything like that. That you might be able to see light, you might be able to pass carb cleaner through there, but you need to run something else like a piece of wire or something like that, just to make sure that that hole is not restricted in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll bring you guys back when we're reassembling. battery charged. We're going to throw that in quick. Well, time to grab the fuel bottle again. Pour some fuel down in here. Use my special key here. Battery's good. Iron the hole. Oh, buddy. Oh. Well, guys, today's been a huge success. I'm super excited. It runs, it lives. I just did a burnout on my lift to show off for my dad and his buddies on FaceTime. Which, hey, that's probably some of the best parts of doing this kind of stuff. But with it up and running, I got a couple other things. Obviously, the carbs, as I mentioned several times now. Just got in the mail the stuff to do the front fork seals. They're leaking pretty bad. We're going to rebuild the front forks. Video will be done on that. The other thing, probably won't do on video, but I've got the gas tank. It had some surface rust on the inside. What I found what works best is some of this evapor rust or any kind of rust remover that you can find at like the hardware store or even Walmart. Dump a gallon of that in there, shake it up, let it sit for a couple hours, shake it up again. Do that for about a day or two. Take the tank out and pressure wash it. It usually gets rid of everything on the inside as long as it's not horrible. Anyway, so I'm going to pressure wash that out today. Next time you see it, hopefully have this whole thing put back together, and we'll be ready to race coming up in 5 days. So thanks for checking out this video, guys. I hope you liked it. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Drop me a comment down below, and as always, hit that subscribe button to help this channel grow. We'll catch you guys in the next video.